for interviews to join us. And our first, let me see if I can send an invite for him to join us. Okay. And this is going to be a very popular in the scene here in New York. His name is Jonathan Reed Wexler. He's doing a lot of work around town, and he actually is Jonathan.
Hey, Rodney. How are you?
Good. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great. I'm very happy to be joining you tonight.
I'm happy to have you. Jonathan, you know, I've heard wonderful things about you from many different people in the New York Shakespeare scene. Most notably, recently, a couple of weeks back, we had a program with Christopher Carter Sanderson, and he was doing for us a master class in Shakespeare acting, an introduction to Shakespeare acting. And one of the things that he was telling us in that program is he was pointing to some text messages that you had sent him. You were part of, or you are part of, two of his most recent productions, both of them being film versions of of Shakespeare. One was Macbeth from about a year and a half ago. And the most recent is Hamlet, and that's in production right now. And you are Horatio in that production of Hamlet, correct?
That's absolutely right, yes.
All right. So Christopher, being the textualist that he is very, very deep. His mantra is words, words, words. He wants to explore the words, know exactly what they are, what they mean, how they're supposed to be pronounced. And you had sent him a text. You had asked him, as part of your work for the role of Horatio, you had asked him, wait a minute, I see that in the text that we have, there's a certain word that's here, but when we go to the first folio, there's a different word choice. And Christopher loves that. So he was singing your praises. He was singing your praises.
Oh.
Tell me, Jonathan, you've been around, how many years have you been involved in the New York Shakespeare scene here?
Pretty much ever since I graduated from the University of Wisconsin in 2007. Probably around 2008, I started to do Shakespeare productions in the city.
Okay.
And I have more or less been working with Christopher and Guerrilla Rep, as well as Linnea Benson and the Frog and Peach Theater Company for the last dozen years or so. So pretty much around when I graduated college. And I also got started at the American Theater of Actors, which
okay.
Jim runs. So between those three theater companies, I think I've done 13 different plays in the canon.
And those are all wonderful theater companies.
Yeah.
And then when you graduated, I was looking at your resume earlier, and I was looking. You did some work at the Lee Strasberg studio as well, right?
That's right. Yes. So I was actually I studied method over the summer. So throughout college, I really for education at the Strasberg Institute. When I was younger, and I had the same method acting teachers, one of which was Ted Zurkowski, who is the co-founder of Frog and Peach.
Right.
And I really, that's when I really, I think, fell in love with Shakespeare and with performing theater. And I just coincidentally, is a backstage listing that Linnea had posted for Frog and Peach, and Ted's on my resume, and she asked me, how do you get it? I just put it together, so it's funny. It's
right.
Small, it's a small, tight-knit community.
It is.
Of dedicated people who do Shakespeare in New York, because
it's absolutely true. This is something that I talked about many times on this program. We've been doing this since the COVID era began. It's about a year and some change that we've been doing this program, and I've said this many times that I personally was part of this scene many years ago, and I stepped away for a period of time. And when I came back to it, the scene had just expanded exponentially in the time that I was gone. And now there's, I think at the last time I counted, and this is before COVID, but I think there were maybe like 70 or 75 different theater companies doing Shakespeare around New York. And as many as that is, and it's huge as a city as New York is. It's one of the biggest cities in the world. It's one of the most diverse cities where there's so much production happening in New York. But even with those 75 companies and all that production, it's still a small world, and everyone kind of sort of more or less knows each other from one company to another. So yeah, absolutely. It's no coincidence that you kind of bumped into Ted and to Linnea, and things happened with you with Frog and Peach. And I've seen some of the stuff that you do with them. And you're doing wonderful stuff over there. And they are both people that they're training and are very deeply rooted in that method in that Lee Strasberg method technique. So for me, they both go ahead.
Have that that method background we use definitely to prepare for the performances.
So let me ask you. This is a very actor-y kind of question. For me, method, it's a very deeply involved style, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful when you see an actor that can do it well and that really understands it and can really embrace it. That's fantastic.
Okay. Oh, I missed you for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think we lost the connection for a second there.
Bold style.
Yeah. I think method is a wonderful style if the actor really knows what they're doing. But a lot of times, the depth that you have to go to with method is in conflict with some of the technical things that you have to do for Shakespeare. So how do you balance those two out?
Very good question. So Shakespeare can be maybe the way that it's approached a lot is like a presentational thing. And of course it's so specific, when you have verse and I think that the method is good. We use these things that we have in our toolbox. If we need to make a substitution for a character, then we do that, and if we need to use like an overall sensation to get, and it only helps, I think, to get into the setting of Shakespeare, because there's so much that happens. There's so much that happens off stage. You need to use that moment before to like fill in the gaps for the audience. The characters have to be very specific about that.
Right.
So having that basis of study is really just like so advantageous when you're doing something as lofty as Shakespeare can be. It grounds you, into your reality. Because the wonderful thing about Shakespeare and why it's like persevered throughout the centuries is that it's always relevant and that it's always this immediate thing that speaks to what we're experiencing as a society. So now I think especially during the pandemic and everything that we've gone through, we need Shakespeare because he speaks to these times. And, someone who wrote one of his great plays during the plague.
Right. Absolutely right. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better. That's a great way to explain it. So you've been working with Frog and Peach, and you did some stuff with them. And then at what point along the way did you get hooked up with Christopher Carter Sanderson and Gorilla Rep?
So another kind of coincidental thing, sort of, if you want to call it that, I just fell into it. I was doing a stage reading at the Living Theater, and the gentleman who was playing Claudius in Gorilla Rep's production at Fort Tryon Park by the cloisters of Hamlet asked if anyone wanted to ASM, to be an assistant stage manager. And it's something that I had never done, and it interested me. And then I met with Christopher, and like immediately it felt very comfortable, and it felt like this company and his mission spoke to me. And I think, I don't know, it was like the second rehearsal or something. I was like, can I audition for this? Because there were like so he was like cast. There's Bernardo and a bunch of different small the minor tracks. So I got to do that, and I love like the immersive theater and breaking the fourth wall. Like we do that. Like the great thing about Frog and Peach and Gorilla Rep and all these great theater Shakespeare companies is that we do it like it was meant to do, and like we're folio theater companies, and we deliver the line right to the audience. And if it's like an aside, it's right to the audience, and even if it's not, a lot of the time it's to the audience. So having that, like having the audience move from place to place, which is so much, the core of Gorilla Rep, we're taking the audience on a journey quite physically. And the way that, like Hamlet speech to the players, everything, like we take note, and that's how we study Shakespeare, is that there are all these hints that he has in the text, and that's happened. So one scene is right on top of the other, in a different spot in the lawn, and it's magical. And that's what I love about the Midsummer Night's Dream productions in Washington Square Park, is that it has just like, it's a happening. And it's people,
really?
Passersby end up there, and you have homeless people who end up there, and you have people who have a drum circle, or a flash mob is in the park. And once we had a lightsaber battle that was going on. That's what New York's about. And like, that's the drive of the company. That's why I love working with them.
Absolutely, and there's in those productions there was always I've told Christopher this several times is that I saw that Midsummer Night's Dream I don't know how many years in a row, many years in a row, and the actors would change from year to year, but the level of energy and the quality level would not. Every year it would be just top notch work, and I think you if I'm remembering correctly, you were Lysander in the Midsummer Night's Dream in what about maybe about 2015, 16, somewhere in that range.
Right. Yes, I was Lysander, and I got to do it the next year also. And I pretty much I didn't beg Christopher, but I was like, Christopher, can I just play Demetrius once? Because I've done Midsummer. I played Lysander 4 times, so I love it again. Right, for the plug next Monday.
Right. You're going to be joining us next Monday, right?
So yeah, those productions were just so much fun to be in.
Absolutely, and they were so much fun to watch. It was amazing.
Thank you. Well, that's what we miss. I mean, that's the live theater. That's what we miss. That connection with the audience, because that's what makes theater theater. So,
absolutely. And you're going to be Lysander next week in the Midsummer Night's Dream. That's going to be on Zoom with us. Fantastic,
that's right.
Fantastic. So now tell me about this. So you are a theater actor. You're used to being in front of an audience, that live interaction, that live exchange of energy that can only happen in that physical space. How has it been for you making the transition from that in-person, energetic exchange, especially with Guerrilla Rep, that's so mobile and so interactive, and taking that into the virtual space that has been the film production and the Zoom productions and things like that?
Definitely been peculiar, and it has had a learning curve. At first, when the lockdown happened and it was announced that Broadway closed, and I was supposed to do a production with Frog and Pete of As You Like It, and one of the dream roles I was going to play Jake Lees, and so it was devastating, and the virtual theater is a strange thing that doesn't really have. It's so many different kinds of genres, I think, just melded into one. But
right.
I think that it's the part of doing theater and calling it theater when it is virtual, it's a Zoom, or like we did with Guerrilla Rep with Macbeth and Hamlet, where it's
right.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking right into the lens kind of feels like you're doing theater, which is something that you don't do often in TV or film. They don't break the fourth wall that much. It's very stylized.
Right.
And, often, almost all the time, you're not supposed to look in the lens. So looking into the lens feels kind of like theater, but it's weird because I'm always doing it in selfie mode. So I'm watching myself. Definitely a lot. But right. It's strange. And I've watched some Zoom theater and I've been intrigued by some of it, or whatever kind of virtual theater there is. But I have definitely, during the pandemic, have a part of that theater part of my life has been kind of, I don't know, silenced or transmorphed into something.
Right.
But
right.
When theater comes back, which it's coming back, that whole absence of it is going to it's going to ignite something. So I'm very curious.
Yeah, I'm as with you. I'm hopeful for theater to return to what it used to be. But at the same time, I'm happy that we have had. I mean, of course, I'm not happy about the coronavirus pandemic, and so it's terrible that as much things have happened to as many people as it has. But if there's some kind of silver lining to it, I think that this requirement, this necessity being the mother of invention, that we all had to embrace this new methodology, this new format. I think there's been a lot of innovation and creativity in what's been going on. And even the Macbeth and the Hamlet that you have done with Christopher, the fact that he did it in a way that it was all close-ups, I think it's a very different, it's a very visually jarring technique, and I highly encourage anyone who's watching, if you haven't already seen it, go and check out the Macbeth that's already available on Vimeo, and that is a wonderful, wonderful performance by Leah Robinson in the lead role, and you're not too shabby in there either. I think you're Banquo in there, right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, and you did a fine job in there also. So there's a lot of great performances in there, and Hamlet is shaping up. It looks to be quite a doozy as well. And how is Hamlet for you?
Very excited to see it. It was it's Hamlet. It's a beast of a play.
Right.
It was great to work on. I enjoy. I played Horatio once before. Actually, Frog and Peach. It's a part that I love, but it was like doing it for the first time. And I was very lucky that my girlfriend, who is getting credited as a field producer, she read lines with me, which I didn't have when I did Macbeth, and that made a huge difference. So that was really nice, because it was like I was actually talking to someone. But it's such a fascinating process that we're not reading the like we had a nice rehearsal for all of the scenes when we did Hamlet, and then that was it. And then you know, have to remember how the actors read the lines, and it's such a cool experience. But yeah, I mean, it was daunting, it was exciting, it was scary, it was at times. But yeah,
and with Gorilla Rep and Christopher Carter Sanderson, you always know that it's going to be an amazing production. There's a lot of things you have to go through to get there, but at the end result is always fantastic. So I'm very excited to see how that turns out. I'm excited to see you join us next week on Monday the 14th for the all-star production version of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I thank you so much for joining us here tonight, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Rodney.
I look forward to seeing you next week. We'll talk to you soon, Jonathan.
All right, I'll see you.
Take care. All right, so we will remove Jonathan and thank him very much for his time here tonight. All right, so I see all the hearts, all the love coming in from the people that are in the audience. Thank you so much for all of you who are watching with us here tonight. This program will be